In 2017, one of the worst films in the Alien franchise, Alien Covenant, was released. The film is a direct follow-up to the 2012 Prometheus, which I thought, despite what many critics said, was pretty good. Alien Covenant fails in many ways, though. It has poor character development, weak casting, a storyline that has been done too many times, and a variety of plot holes. In addition, the film has a poor connection to Prometheus and once again dives into philosophical questions Prometheus already explored. The film opens by showing the android David from the first film, Prometheus, talking with Weyland, its creator. It comes to the realization during the conversation it is immortal, while Mr. Weyland is not. This seems to empower David, which we already saw in the 2012 film Prometheus, but it's much more prominent, as we'll see in this film. Soon, we see the spaceship is named Covenant. It is managed by an android named Henry, played once again by Michael Fassbender. The crew are currently in stasis or hypersleep, and the objective of the ship is to establish a new colony on a remote planet. They are carrying thousands of embryos and humans frozen for this purpose. While recharging their ship, they soon get hit by a solar flare, and Henry has to wake up the crew of 15. They cannot open the pod for the captain in time, though, and he burns to death inside it, and the crew watch in horror as he burns alive. This scene, of course, raised the question, why wasn't there some sort of emergency release button? It would seem, with such advanced technology, they could anticipate this scenario. The crew now is going to be led by its new captain, Captain Oran. It's obvious from the beginning he's no leader and doesn't have the respect of the crew, who are mourning the loss of their real captain. The individual most upset about the death, though, is now second in command, Daniels. Daniels is the main protagonist in the film, although she really lacks screen presence. With the damage to the ship, the crew has to fix it, and Pilot Tennessee, played by Danny McBride, heads outside to fix it. While outside the spaceship, Tennessee picks up an odd signal. Once he gets in the craft, they soon determine it to be the song Country Roads, and coming from an undiscovered planet. Right here, they should be able to put two and two together and know that the signal must be from the Prometheus. They know the ship is missing, but no one even bothers to suggest it as a possibility. Unless ships are going missing all the time in the future, it should be obvious where this signal is coming from. After analyzing the planet, they discover it looks more habitable than the planet they are headed toward in deep space. The crew doesn't like the idea of getting back in the pods for 7 years, since they just watched their captain burn alive. Captain Oram makes the decision they should go check out the new planet, as it could serve as a place to set up their colony. Daniel cautions Captain Oram, though, since they studied the other planet for years and know almost everything about it. Soon the ship approaches the planet, and a smaller ship breaks off. They head down toward the planet with the goal of finding the signal. Here they really should just do a flyby, looking for signs of life. Instead, though, they go off on foot. Then we get one of the massive flaws in the film, and possibly the franchise. The crew disembarks from the ship into a foreign planet, but no one is wearing any type of protective gear over their mouth or face. It is, of course, what eventually leads to disaster. The crew then splits apart, and one of the scientists, Captain Aram's wife, named Corrine, and a soldier venture off to take samples. The other crew heads in the spaceship they see downed and begin exploring. Meanwhile, the soldier with the scientist goes off to use the bathroom and manages to release the deadly black substance by stepping on them. Since he wasn't wearing any protective gear, of course, he gets infected and gets really sick. The soldier and scientist start heading back to the ship, and it's apparent that something has taken a hold of this man. However, once they arrive at the craft, Corrine and Ferris is Tennessee's wife, seem to have no concept how to quarantine the soldier. When NASA astronauts return from missions, they're required to quarantine for weeks and are examined to ensure they haven't brought back any dangerous substance back from Earth. The ship has no quarantine procedure though, and they just rush the bleeding soldier inside and try and help him. In Prometheus, Charlize Theron killed the 6 scientists who tried to come aboard. In this film though, all safety protocols are thrown out the window. While this is occurring, the other group is heading back too, with their own infected man. At the ship, Ferris brings the 2 in and airlocks the 2 in the room. Soon a creature bursts from the soldier's back and kills Corrine. Then Ferris opens the airlock room and tries to shoot the alien, but her bullet goes astray and it blows up the ship, killing everyone. Meanwhile, the other group is heading back and sees the ship explode. They receive word that something was going on, but because of the storm coming in, they don't have all the details. It's funny how these storms always seem to come at the worst time in these films. Soon the crew begins to get attacked by something and takes several casualties. Then something comes and shoots a flare into the sky. It seems to scare off the creatures for the time being. The mysterious figure tells the group to follow him. As they follow him, they walk through a deserted alien city with alien corpses everywhere. Something happened here. Something terrible. We then learn who the mysterious figure is. It is David from the prior film, Prometheus. David goes on to tell the group the story of how he and Dr. Shaw escaped the other planet. When they arrived here, accidentally the ship crashed and released the black matter, killing everyone, including Elizabeth. No one bothers, though, questioning David about his story and what actually happened. The crew has to know that David is a version of the cyborgs that started displaying independent thinking and were able to create by themselves. This is established a bit later in the film when Walter talks with David. In the next few scenes, we see some really dumb moves by the characters. The most prominent of these is when David takes the captain back and tells him to basically stick his face right up against an alien cocoon. The captain, of course, does it without thinking David could be malevolent, and soon a face hugger shoots out, attaching itself to his face. Up in space, Tennessee and company are trying to get in touch with them. They soon decide to start descending into the planet. Eventually, Daniels and Chief Lope discover they need to make a run for the ship. A xenomorph trails them, and soon Walter comes running from behind. He had just been fighting with David, and we didn't see what happened. They are able to kill the xenomorph eventually while flying away and ascend back into outer space. On the spaceship, Daniels soon wakes up to learn a foreign being is on the ship. Lope is dead, as the facehugger planted eggs inside him. Soon the large xenomorph kills off 2 people. In one of the final scenes, Daniels and Tennessee kill the xenomorph, releasing it into space. One more scene happens in the movie, though, that is supposed to be the big twist. However, the final scene was both predictive and very unsatisfying. Tennessee goes under in stasis, and then Daniel goes into the sleep chamber, about to be put to sleep. She mentions the log cabin she talked about constantly with Walter. However, Walter looks confused. Here we find out what really wasn't surprising. Walter is actually David. Daniel realizes it right before she is put to sleep. David is in complete control now and doesn't hide the fact of who he is. He then puts 2 alien eggs in storage. The final scene was pretty unsatisfying, as David pretending to be Walter was very predictable. For one, we never saw Walter kill David or end him. The ending scene was never shown between the two. Also, why didn't Daniels and Tennessee test Walter somehow? There must be a million things about the crew Walter would know and David wouldn't. One other huge issue happens with the change in David's appearance. In a matter of moments, he was able to somehow cut his hair, slice off his arm, skin his face, and put on Walter's clothes too. One big issue with the film generally is Daniels really has no screen presence. The main protagonist has to have character and a good storyline attached to he or she. I'm not expecting her to be another Sigourney Weaver, but Dr. Shaw was able to achieve this in Prometheus. We saw her fight tooth and nail to stay alive, and we saw her lose everything. Daniels, we just can't connect with, as she just makes bad decision after bad decision. One other problem I have with this movie is that the central character is David, a robot. It focuses on his evolution from curious servant to really a malevolent machine wanting to be God. If this were an AI movie, that'd be fine. But the Alien franchise is really about humans trying to beat a superior opponent, the xenomorphs. David doesn't think humans are on his level, and soon he doesn't think the engineers are on his level as well. This is why he kills Shaw and releases the Black Death on the planet. The movie seems to come back to the same questions and themes from the prior film, Prometheus. It didn't, however, add anything new. We already knew David believed he was godlike and better than humans. It was a bit silly, too, that David somehow talked Shaw into rebuilding him, and she didn't take safeguards to protect herself. She almost didn't grab him at the end of Prometheus. Speaking of Shaw, it was a pretty lame move, too, by the directors, killing Shaw off-screen. It seems that originally the story was going to follow Shaw and David in the film, but they opted to go a different direction for some reason. It obviously didn't work, and this is one of the worst films in the Alien franchise. I would give this movie either a C- or a D.